Hi, it's me, Ally, and ever since Adventure Time ended recently, I've been thinking about something. You see, there's this infamous story in the animation community about how Adventure Time was rejected by Nick for Fanboy and Chum Chum, and I've just been wondering why. Why would they reject this show that would become a cultural phenomenon for this? Especially for this. What even is this? Fanboy and Chum Chum. That name either brings you feelings of nostalgia or gives you flashbacks to hellish tortured screams that sort of sound like Sound System Dreamscape. Jokes aside, I belong to the former category, even if this was one of the more questionable choices that I made when I was younger. I could even sing the theme song from memory. Well, it's obvious that I can't do that now, seeing as how this cartoon still brings back fond memories. But despite these positive experiences, everything I've ever heard about the show has been super negative. So much that I started to wonder if the show was really so bad that it caused Nick to crumble just by picking the show up. So I've decided to take a look back at the show. Using these episodes that have been selected from across the shows run by a random number generator, I hope to get a good feel for the series so I can figure out the answers to what I'm looking for. What is Fanboy and Chum Chum? Why did Nick pass up on Adventure Time? What could have been if the show didn't exist? Did Chum Chum win the custody battle for my kids? Yes he did. Let's get on with the show.
This is where the spinal cord exits the skull.
So where do we even start with this show? Well, the series aired from 2009 to the end times and served the title of personalities to Fanboy and Chum Chum. These characters were designed to be a parody of common superhero tropes. They were created to juxtapose the gritty realism and storylines with epic scope, which were becoming all too commonplace in comics within the past few decades, with nonsensical plotlines and mundane settings that centered around the everyday routine of the children who idolize these heroes. Everything in this show is tailored to fit the worldview of a child. From the characters to the settings and even to the writing, the show is about these two kids imitating their heroes. All of the characters are people that interact with these kids on a daily basis. Notice how there's no adults populating this town. That's because the only adults that appear in the series are inherently childlike and are thusly seen as friends of the children, or are directly impeding the children's path to having no responsibilities and unlimited fun. Other adults are just simply unremarkable in the eyes of a child. All of the characters in this show are things and people that a child would interact with, like their friends, their teachers, or even an arcade machine. Compared to the relatively mundane concepts of these characters, Fanboy and Chum Chum stick out like a sore thumb. They live in a water tower, they wear bright jumpsuits, they're clearly the most important people in their world. I mean, just look at how they wear the underwear on the outside of their suits. They clearly must be some sort of superheroes, but they're not. They're just some annoying kids that are good-natured, they try to help everyone out, but they just end up getting in the way. This is where I think that the show has some sort of hidden genius. It almost perfectly encapsulates what it feels like to be a child. Want more proof? Well, most of the events in this show take place in about 4 locations, those being the school, the boys' house, and a couple of places that the boys like to hang out in after school. This small scope of settings parallels the routine of many of the kids that will be watching this show. Anywhere that the characters go that isn't one of the 4 main locations is just a fantasy that the kids create to make their day seem more exciting. I feel like the best example of this is the episode titled Super Chums. The entire episode is about the kids pretending to be superheroes, mimicking many of the personality traits of their idols. Every scene takes place in all new locations that have never been seen before in the series. It sticks out from all the other episodes because it deviates from the norm of the series by being played like a straight superhero drama with only slight jabs at the source material, instead of showcasing how the world looks to a child. In fact, the rest of the show is written as if most of the characters were real children. They're annoying, they're destructive, they make a big deal out of every minor problem. I can honestly see why people over the age of 10 hated this show, even when I was a little kid and my babysitter wouldn't even let me watch this show. Adults just don't like children, even if you say like children. You still have to admit that when they're bad, they're really bad. They can be loud, they can be obnoxious, they can be whiny. But you know who likes to watch kids? Other kids. Kids like to watch other kids on TV. They like to relate with other kids. In this way, Fanboy and Chum Chum succeeded at being a good show with respect to its target audience. I mean, I liked it. However, this show is unlucky enough to be coming out during the very late 2000s and the early 2010s. There was a growing audience for animated shows that were not only just for kids but for everyone. Now, to be fair, this series' concept has been done before by other shows, and a million times better at that. But I think that the hate that this series has received is totally unwarranted. Sure, I get where these complaints are coming from. People are wanting to have animation be seen as an art form that's not just for kids but for every age group. However, this doesn't mean that stupid kid-centric animation should just stop existing. There's stupid kid-centric shit in all art forms. That's the beauty of art. There's variety in everything. If you've tried something and you don't like it, you don't have to let it occupy your mind. There's bound to be something out there for you. Anyways, speaking of the 20 cents.
Everyone, bubblegum, I'm so dumb, I should have just told you what I lost was a piece of your hair. Now it's gone, gone forever, but I guess what does it matter when I just had all of you there?
There's no denying that Adventure Time is one of the most important TV shows, if not general pieces of media, to have come out this past decade. It ushered in a new era of TV animation that was not only intended to appeal to children, but it was interesting enough to attract adults, young adults, just people from all walks of life. It was funny, it was endearing, it was suspenseful, it was heart-wrenching, it was just an all-around great show. It set a precedent for what people expect from animation. It, along with other shows that started around the same time, have pretty much shattered the stigma that animation is a lesser art form. Members of the show's crew have gone to create some of what I feel are the most interesting and innovative shows that exist today. However, there was a time when the fate of Adventure Time seemed very different, uncertain even. You see, Adventure Time was originally pitched to Nickelodeon as the short for the random cartoon spot. It was here that the show was competing for the attention of the network alongside dozens of other pitches. But out of the tons of ideas that were presented to Nick, 31 to be exact, only 2 rose to the top and were eventually considered by the network and Federator to become full-length TV shows. These 2 shorts were Adventure Time and Fanboy and Chum Chum, then known as Fanboy. Oh, and I guess Bravest Warriors was there too, but I'm pretty sure that was picked by Federator independently of Nick, and also is totally irrelevant for this comparison. This outcome isn't too uncommon for Federator showcases. The previous block Oh Yeah cartoons had about the same amount of full-length series spawning from it. However, the strange thing about this one is that these shows went on completely separate paths. The trend in the shows that are picked up from these workshops is that they are greenlit on the same channel that the block aired on. However, this isn't the case with this group of pilots. While Fanboy was picked up for a full series by Nickelodeon, Adventure Time was rejected by the executives. Twice. Why would Nick pass up on such a huge show? Twice? Well, to figure that out, we have to go all the way back to the pilot. Yep, whether it's live action, animated, or anything in between, all shorts start off with a 6 to 11 minute episode called the pilot.
We want you to tell us what you think, and be honest, because no one from the show is...
If it succeeds this test and is greenlit, it receives the funding to become a real TV show. However, if it fails, it remains as 1 episode. It can be forgotten or even outright lost, but hey, we don't have to venture to the world of the dead and forgotten today. What I'm concerned with is what content in the pilots of Adventure Time and Fanboy and Chum Chum made Nickelodeon choose one over the other. Well, to start off, both of these shorts have quite a similar premise. A boy and his orange best friend venture off on a comical journey to a land of ice to defeat an isolated villain and save the day, and maybe their favorite pink stuff too. Okay, that's oversimplifying both these shorts a lot, but you can't deny that the similarities are at least a bit uncanny. Although when we dig deeper, the differences become way more clear. For example, while both of these shorts are focused on surrealistic comedy, they each address this point in very different ways. Fanboy puts a large focus on the slapstick element, letting the action speak for itself, while Adventure Time takes a more wordy approach, having the characters act as somewhat of a guide through this strange world. Fanboy has a thumb war for the fate of the world in a weird inflation balloon that flies all around the room, while Adventure Time has Finn and Jake giving a flame monster directions to the sun only to throw a snowball at him, and Abraham Lincoln, King of Mars, encouraging Finn to keep fighting the Ice King. In fact, Fanboy is awfully reminiscent of another show that was immensely popular at the time. It reminds me of someone who's absorbent, yellow, and porous. That's right, Fanboy and Chum Chum is just a SpongeBob clone with no originality whatsoever. Alright, it's not that similar, but the short does feel quite like an average episode of SpongeBob. From the down-to-earth setting, the plot setup, the humor, and even with some of the character dynamics, at times this show can feel like a SpongeBob episode with no water and some superheroes. This might have been the reason why the network chose this show and not Adventure Time. After all, the network had a hit on their hands. The most logical conclusion, in the minds of the executives at least, would be to replicate their success by making something as close as possible to what brought them to the success in the first place. Adventure Time was just too strange and different for the network to give it a chance. They didn't have enough faith in it to justify the risk of failure, so they chose Fanboy, Cartoon Network picked up Adventure Time, and the rest is history. But what if Nickelodeon hadn't rejected the show?
Se você insiste em classificar meu comportamento diante musical.
What if Fanboy wasn't the hopeful successor to SpongeBob that it had seemed? What if Nickelodeon chose to greenlight Adventure Time instead? Could Nickelodeon have been the hub for the TV animation renaissance of the 2010s? Maybe not. You see, before Adventure Time premiered, Cartoon Network was in a really bad place with its ratings, maybe even the worst place that they have ever been. Now, they're no stranger to being behind the other big three animation networks in ratings. This will allow them to experiment and produce things that stray away from what is expected of them. In 2009, they did just that with the introduction of CNReal.
Real kids doing real stuff in real situations. Wednesday nights on CNReal.
They had created this block of live-action programming to rival Disney Channel and Nickelodeon's offerings. However, this backfired spectacularly, and Cartoon Network was losing its audience fast. The future was looking dark for the channel until...
Excuse me? Do you know what time it is? 11:30. Actually, it's Adventure Time! Yeah!
Yep, Adventure Time was the first cartoon on the channel that had premiered in over a year, so they made sure to promote it as much as possible. I swear, this show was everywhere from 2010 to 2014 at the least. It was Cartoon Network's unofficial flagship series. Of course it was everywhere. It saved the channel from extinction in many people's eyes. Meanwhile, at Nickelodeon, there was no struggle for ratings. Both their animated and live-action programs were performing well at the time. The network had no need for Adventure Time. They could advertise the hits that they already had instead of promoting a new show that they were unsure they would see a return on. I fear that if Nick had greenlit Adventure Time, they would have just cast it to the side if it wasn't an instant hit without any promotion. The boom in story-driven cartoons during the 2010s would not be the way it is today. The impact that Adventure Time has had on animation and popular culture is not only reflected in the wonderful shows made by its alumni, but also in the shifting views on the medium as a whole. Of course, this scenario has a few problems. Adventure Time didn't do this alone. There was like 2 other shows that came out around the same time that assisted it. The show was probably in production at the same time as CNReal. Nick could have just rejected the series anyways, even without Fanboy standing in its way. Whatever, alternate history isn't perfect. But I feel it's undeniable that Nickelodeon didn't need Adventure Time as much as Cartoon Network did. They wouldn't have pushed it so heavily or basically made it the flagship animated series of 2010s like Cartoon Network did. Without that, the animation will not be the same, and I feel like we had Fanboy and Chum Chum to thank for taking a bullet for TV animation as a whole.
How about playing something different?
So that covers it for Fanboy and Chum Chum. Should you watch this show? No, not really. It's not that good. There's shows out there that do its concept and pull it off 100 times better. Honestly, I just had a headache when I was finished with a few episodes I chose to watch. I really don't think you're going to be any better off when you watch this series. If you really have the insatiable urge to watch this show, you can buy a single episode for like $3 on iTunes. There's no excuse to pirate this show. Everyone can afford to pay that much, unless you're like a kid and legally can't do a job. Then I guess you can just do some chores or something, beg your parents for some money, I don't know. Just one episode is probably all you need, but I guess just appreciate it from afar for the indirect impact it had in the industry. Anyways, I've been Ally, and until I find a better way to end my videos, I'll see you around.
If there was some amazing force outside of time to take us back to where we were, and hang each moment up like pictures on the wall inside a billion tiny frames so that we could see